the book or like he got real sad about it. He's like, it's okay, I'll return it and I'll have this one pop. It's fine. And so he's very Chuck even more than that. Don't know where they
Really close to 2.
It's impressive.
Not what I planned.
Mr. Clerk, is it 6:30?
It is 6:30.
Well, that analog clock is off, remember?
All right,
Oh, yeah.
if you are ready. Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, let's call the meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Proof of giving public notice.
Notice was given.
Wonderful, thank you. We have all board members present, so we do not need to discuss or decide on virtual participation. All right, we're going to go into public comments. We only have 2 tonight, and most of you have been here before, so I think you know the rules of engagement. When it comes to not addressing board members directly by name, please speak only generally. You have 3 minutes, but we should be fine this evening because there's only 2 and only 1 with public comment. So, Mel.
Sure. I have a couple questions about agenda items, and I'm hoping we could address them when we get to those items. First, regarding the monthly voucher report, I'm wondering if a board member attends an event or conference representing both our district and another entity, how are the associated costs shared between the two? And if the expenses aren't split equally, is there a different method of cost allocation? My 2 other questions refer to the recount. One, in the interest of transparency and public understanding, I'd like to know if there were any current board members involved in encouraging the recount, and if so, I'd appreciate hearing how you personally considered the potential costs and financial impact on the district when supporting that decision. And lastly, this is probably a question more for the finance committee, but there's some discrepancies between the recount discussion document and the legal fees on the voucher report, and there's like a $3,000 difference. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the public comment portion. Thank you very much for coming and speaking. Okay, next, go into the consent agenda. The consent agenda allows us to approve groupings of items. Any board member, if they have a reason to pull something out, they can. If not, at this time, I would be looking for, actually before that, we have donations. We have donations as part of public consent. And I would love to have a volunteer who would be willing to read off our donations for this evening, so that it's in public.
I'm trying to pull it up right now, so.
I can do it if you pull it up.
Please, sir.
Fidelity Charitable Trust from the Zulu family, I hope I said that correctly, for $2,000 for the library. Library supplies, books.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much for making that very generous donation. Okay, at this point, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items.
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries, consent agenda items are approved. Committee reports. Start with finance.
All right, so we have fairly lengthy agenda under the Director of Business Services report, and a lot of our time in the finance meeting was taken up discussing those items, so I won't go into detail on those things. I guess instead what I'd like to do with my time is just, I think this is going to be Amy's last board meeting as business manager of Hartland-Lakeside. She's moving on to similar position in Hamilton, which is a great career move for her, much bigger district. She's gonna be greatly missed. She's been very helpful to me personally as somebody who I thought I really knew finance, and I do, but I don't know. Realize how little I knew about school finance. Very patient, she's educated, over last year, me repeatedly, and Chris Haglund was part of that, and now Morgan's gotten a taste of that, so just really, it's been a huge asset to the district. Just super impressed with your ownership over everything, just your patience with everything, and just, you know, all the time you spend. It's true, it's clear you care about the district, and you gave it everything, and you know, you're gonna be missed, so thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I'm gonna say my little piece right now too, just because, you know, this is gonna be hard, I'm gonna cry, it's okay, I do that, it's a normal thing, we've done this quite a bit, we walk together on a regular basis, have since she came here, so blessed to have somebody become a friend through this whole thing, and yeah, she is gonna be missed, we've been side by side and creating and doing for a long time, but I am so darn proud of her for taking care of herself and her family and the future, and she has set up our new person better than I've ever seen anybody set somebody up. There's a monthly calendar, she's got all the documents, absolutely everything set for him, he has been here, so for that too, thank you. Having never been a teacher, you're quite busy.
Very true.
And I just like to say, I've only been here a year, but over the year, the clarity that you bring to these meetings, to the district, and the ability to, on a dime, think and get something else out there for us has been amazing. So you will be greatly missed. I greatly appreciate everything you've done.
And I echo that as well. I mean, you've done an amazing job of explaining school finance and funding for not just the board, but also the public at the annual meetings. Thank you. But beyond that too, over the years that I've seen before the board and then on the board, anything that's been thrown at you, you've taken. I mean, you took it, you said yes. You never said no. You might say, I don't know, I'll find out, but you never said no. Whether it was increased responsibilities, increased asks from the board, whatever it might be, you always said yes. And that can-do attitude will be missed so much. Yes, the position will be filled, but you will not be replaced. So we will miss you. So thank you for everything you've done. Thank you, Matt. Yep. Thank you. Okay, PPC.
All right, we went back and discussed the NEOL policies from the 2000 to 8000. We also reviewed what we sent back from the board from the previous meeting. There's some different definitions that are going to be changed that are kind of just the nuances of these policies. One thing that these are updates to the policies that came down from Neola. So we have already approved the majority of these. There's a couple that came in yellow from a month ago that were newer, but we've approved all of these. These are just fine tuning based off of legal advice from Neola. So one of the funny or the fuzzy things that comes through is every time they send you a new one, they still give you every option. So even though we selected the options prior and they come back out with all the options again, we have to go back and look. We keep saying no to a bunch of stuff. We've already made that decision. We are just reiterating that decision and adding any nuances to the policies that are there. So it seems like there's a lot that we probably cut out of things, but we're really just keeping our policy and changing the wording, or maybe adding something new that they had put in the recommendation. Is that?
I would say that's absolutely right. Great explanation of exactly what that is. Anything that was struck out or red or in red, I don't know if you've got color copies, that was already done. That work has already been done. Really, truly, this was about any add-ons to continue our legal coverage through Neola. So I think we're gonna discuss these later in the meeting so we can go through them a little bit more finite and I'll have a little bit more to say about that process. But it was a really great meeting and I'm excited about getting these policies approved and getting our employee handbook and our student handbook and those pieces updated.
And that was the one last thing I want to put is the last piece here is really just those ones to get into the employee handbook and the student handbook so that those can get ready for on time. So when we look at it today, we do hopefully get a decision one way or the other for that cause, for that reason.
Thank you. Okay. Superintendent's report.
Yeah, so a little bit lengthy because hello, it's great to be here tonight. So thank you all for working your way through last month. And we're good, we're here, so all is well. Tonight I have Lisa Feldner here. She has been kind of given the title of our Act 20 coordinator, and I will tell you across the state, there isn't anybody better than her. And I mean that quite literally. She has completely written a plan that the state is touting. So it's pretty exciting to have someone so gifted working for us and doing this for our students. So she has met with the CESA 6 director to get some clarification on the annual reading curriculum evaluation and strategic literacy implementation plan. So this year we are required to present our Act 20 data to the board by July 15th. So we found that out just a couple days ago on June 10th, and we said, oops, that means it's gotta be tonight. So I've given her the opportunity to share a couple of slides with you and give you just a brief overview, and we'll come back in July or August with a little bit more information across the board. But Lisa, go ahead.
So this year was the first year of Act 20, which really means part of Act 20 is implementing a reading readiness screener. We had always had one in our district, but this is one that is done statewide. So I'm going to share with you the results from winter and spring. We didn't have to do it in fall because the state wasn't ready for it. Next year we'll do it 3 times a year. So in winter, oh, wait a minute, there we go. In winter, this is how it broke down. In kindergarten, you'll see that only 2% of our students flagged. To flag means that you score below the 25th percentile on the screeners that we're looking at specifically for that grade level. So that was 2 students in our grade level in kindergarten. 1 was already in intervention and 1 was an unexpected student that flagged. When we look at both of them, it comes down to 1% of our kindergarten flagged. When I've gone to all my meetings at CESA 6 and things like that, the average around the state is 30% at a grade level that are flagging. Just keep that in mind as you look at our data, because our data's looking pretty darn good. Okay. If you look at first grade, we had 9 students that were below the 25th percentile. That's 8% of the grade level. If I take out students that had IEPs for reading, that takes us down to 7%. The colored areas just show you how it breaks down. 6 of those students were already in intervention, which means we're catching those kids before we even get on the screener, which is really great. 1 student was with an IEP and 2 were unexpected. So those are the 2 kids, of course, we grabbed them, did everything we needed to do with them to get them back up. Grade 2, same thing. Grade 2, we had 19 students that flagged, that's 17% of that grade level. But if I take the 9 kids out with reading IEPs, that brings us down to 9%. That's a IEP heavy grade level for us as a district. 6 of those students were already in intervention, 9 had IEPs, 3 were unexpected, and 1 was already on the watch list where we were like, oh, you don't need intervention right now, but obviously you do now. And then in 3rd grade, we had 15 students below the 25th percentile, which ended up being 13% of our students. 8 students were in intervention, 6 had IEPs. 1 was a student that was an ELL student, but moved 2 days after the assessment. And then, so that brings us down to 8% at that grade level. So if you're looking at 1, 7, 9, and 8 across our grade levels, when everybody else is looking at an average of 30%, so it's pretty nice. So now we'll look at how that changed in spring. In spring, we still had 2 students that flagged in kindergarten. It wasn't the same 2 students, only 1 was the same. The other one had left their plan and a new one flagged. Still gives us 1% there. 1st grade, we had 11 students that flagged. If you take out, we had 1 student who was EL. That student was exempt in winter because they didn't speak English, so they get 1 freebie, but then they have to be assessed again. Then we got a new student 2 days before we did the assessment. So then that student flagged for us. That brought us to 7%. Grade 2, 18 students flagged, 16% of the grade level. 7 students were in interventions already, 10 had IEPs. 1 new student, again, a couple days before we did the screener. and then that student flagged. If you look at the blue, this shows you that 17 of those students had winter PRPs, which is their personal reading plan. So we had one more. Here we had 7 students who had winter PRPs. We had a couple more there. And then we had the one in kindergarten. Third grade, there were 15 students. That's 13% of our grade level. 7 were already in intervention, 7 had IEPs. 1 was a student that didn't speak English again. And then 14 students had winter PRPs. We had 1 student exit from winter to spring, 1 student in first grade and 1 student in kindergarten, 0 in grade 2. So it's kind of interesting, 7%, 7%, 7%, and 1%. So that's what our data is looking like. It's looking really good right now. What this data is showing us is, 1, we're catching the majority of our students prior to even doing the screener. And those students that did flag were either new to us or had other issues going on that were impacting their reading, or they were just borderline and they just needed a little extra and then they were okay. Any questions?
No.
Well, I'll be back in July or August to give you the rundown on Act 20, okay?
Thank you so much,
Great.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Great
Great.
work on
Wow.
all of that, truly, truly great work.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna keep on rolling. So one of the conversations that's come up several times is the speak about AI. What are we doing with AI in schools and how is it doesn't impact Hartland. And I have Chris on the line. I told him I would say this because we've got a couple topics we're gonna talk about tonight. And he's videoing and he said, give me a call if you need support. So, Chris, here you go. That's your cue. All right. So what do we do with AI, right? We don't do anything with AI from a student perspective. In fact, it's blocked on our computers. Now, are there multiple AI choices? Yep, and students try to find them, they do. But they usually, if they're gonna try to find them, they're trying to find them when they're at their homes, on our computers. So we have caught a couple, they get flagged immediately and it gets shut down, so they can't have access. Chris and his team, they just do such a phenomenal job of monitoring our computer system, the whole, I don't know what you call it, it's called something, I'm sure. But whatever, everybody is on it, right? And everything gets flagged. I mean, you name it, from any little search somebody does, it gets flagged. And Chris looks up into it immediately, not a single person slides through the cracks on that. And that's the same thing with AI, okay? So from our district perspective, being a K-8, if a student is using AI to do homework or anything like that, they're doing it on a home device under the house of their family. At no point do they have access whatsoever through our district server, okay? Now, as far as staff are concerned, sure, right? You know, you're writing an email or you're trying to put together some kind of project, put it through and make sure that it's grammatically correct, make sure that it's all in the right tense, right? I think everybody nowadays do those types of things. Other ways that we are exploring using it, to truthfully, is if we've got a 6th grade reader at a level X, you know, most of them are in a level X, but we've got another one that might be a level G. There's a big difference between those opportunities. So if you're taking a lesson and everybody's here at this X level and you've got 1 or 2 kiddos at G and there isn't a differentiated instructed model and the teacher typically has to create that whole model. One of the things that last year our student services people would look at is the possibility of creating a differentiated model based on that book that student would read, that would be at a lower level. So outside of that, there's not even anything really going on within our classrooms, like teacher-wise, to do anything with AI. I know that this is probably a much bigger issue at the high school and collegiate level, so much so that at the Whitewater graduation, the keynote speaker mentioned it, talked about, you know, whether you got here on your own, right, like, or you used AI, you know, but it's truly a thing. So we're careful about it here, but Chris did write together here AI usage by the students, access, all known AI generation tools are blocked and managed on student devices. Personal devices, the district cannot control student access to AI tools on personal devices used at home or on their phones, but we don't have that problem here because we don't have cell phones. And then detection in student work. When it comes to identifying AI-generated content, Google Docs version history is a helpful tool. Teachers can often spot when a large chunk of text is pasted in at once rather than typed gradually. There are ways AI can defeat this method of detection as well, we all know that, but a sudden change in writing style may be a red flag, and we can probably tell when a 5th or 6th grader is all of a sudden writing this unbelievable essay, right? So our staff are on it, Chris is on it. I know it was a concern, but just thought I would share out on that. Do you have any questions for me regarding that?
I do.
Sure.
So I think this is a really good district strategy for it, but what do we do as far as educating kids on the proper usage of it? If it's completely blocked, when the floodgates open later, I don't know, is there any preparation for it?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because that's part of our strategic plan as we look at developing new and interesting ways for students to learn. One of them is that internet safety as well as digital responsibility in that footprint piece. So all of that is going to start in 3rd grade next year within our library programming. And it'll start out basic with just some communication pieces, vocabulary. We're still developing that program. So I'm excited about that, but we will be starting that next year in 3rd grade.
Can I ask just a simple question? It's just a simple question. It's just Google. Because as soon as you Google anything, they have that stuff show up. And I'm always like, oh, is this real? Is that shut down on the school level too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Email me next time, I'll just talk. Thank you.
Okay. All right, good.
Chris was busy, couldn't shut it down.
Right. Yeah, Chris was
It's just always just on the computer.
It's
AI.
Dylan's eating
Shut down my
bonbons,
kid,
he's
though.
not paying attention. All right, next is a topic that we'll talk about that I've actually asked Matt to help me with because he's been really involved, is this transportation piece. It's been very frustrating. I think I'm gonna let you kind of speak on that and then I'll add what I need to as we go.
Okay, sure.
All right.
Look, I think when I was elected, not this past April, but April before, the school had started talking about the transportation plan, and it was something I got a lot of emails while running. People were very interested in. So last year we had a temporary plan for 1 year, and the idea was that during the school year, we were gonna make changes and reevaluate. You're gonna find that our transportation plan is largely unchanged for the coming year, and that is very frustrating to me. I think it's very frustrating to Amy and Tina, who put a lot of time into it. Understand that the way the transportation set up in Arrowhead and the feeder districts is really it's screwed up. We have a contract, we don't have a contract with our busing company. We have a contract with the consortium, which is all the other schools. The signature on the contract with the busing company is Arrowhead High School. Okay, so we have a contract with this consortium, makes it, we can't make direct asks on Dallasman. Now, we try to do that, but they don't have a contract with us, they have a contract with a consortium. To get out of our contract, that consortium has a contract with Dallasman, that if they want to cancel the contract with Dallasman, it requires 5 years notice. So even if we don't like what's happening, we can call them today and we can get out in 2030, which is ridiculous, okay? So we have a couple of issues we've been trying to address. One, nobody likes the transferring of kids at buses that happens out here. It's exactly what happened at Hamilton High School, and a kid was killed when a bus ran him over. We don't like that situation. We have been a tier 3 school out of all the feeder schools, which means we are last. And that means our kids are leaving school here at 4 o'clock, which is pretty late for middle school kids who start to have all their activities and things of that nature. Well, we think the bus routes are really pretty inefficient in some ways. We approached Dallasman, so we had some ideas on how to improve this. We approached Dallasman about, hey, why don't we have our middle school kids ride on the buses with Arrowhead? Arrowhead's trying to cut down their buses because it's tremendously expensive for Arrowhead to bus kids. Those buses at Arrowhead run with 5 or 6 kids on them, all their routes. Because by the time they're sophomores, most of them are driving. So we wanted to do that. That would move our kids up because Arrowhead starts earlier, but it would be savings for us and potentially savings for Arrowhead. We thought that had a lot of promise. They went back and looked at it. We couldn't get the right number of minutes in our school year by doing it. They were gonna have to pick us up or let us out a lot earlier than would work to get the required number of minutes. So that didn't work. Then we went back and said, hey, why are we pay for the Catholic schools and the private schools people. Why do they get preference over us on bus routes? So we went to push back and said, we wanna move up to tier 2, push some of these private schools down to tier 3. The consortium told us, we're not comfortable approaching the private schools to do that. So they're comfortable having us have a safety issue out here, but they're not comfortable going to the private schools and asking them, who we pay for their busing, and we've learned they double dip on some things that they've been doing that's isn't very savory, but so anyway, it has been tremendously frustrating. Part of the reason they said we couldn't push back on the parochial schools is that it's too late and they have their next school year, but then they come back with a new schedule, in which case they changed our bus routes. Our timing has been changed, so we couldn't ask other schools to do it, but they could ask Hartland-Lakeside to do it. So we were tremendously frustrated. We will be attacking this at the beginning of next school year and demanding answers and trying to get some of these things fixed. We do have some good news in the sense that they did look at the routes. The routes are tremendously inefficient. They're making some changes. We're able to cut one bus route, which will save us $26,000, which isn't a tremendous amount of money, but it's not nothing. There's probably still savings to be had there, I would guess. And so, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. So I personally am not happy with this outcome. And I know Tina and Amy are even less happy because I've only been at 1 or 2 meetings with the transportation company and they're talking about this repeatedly.
Yeah, Matt, I think you did a great job kind of summarizing where we're at. Yeah, to say frustrated is an understatement because we have put so much time and energy and heart into trying to come up with solutions. And we just kept, getting met with a blockade. The only solution that they came with that they're like, we can fix this, but we wouldn't be getting our middle schoolers out of school until like 4:20. And that's even later than 4:03. So why would we do that? So I signed off on it, agreeing that if immediately we start having the conversation with the parochial schools, and determined that we actually gave them 2 options. Matt's initial option, which would be to have the parochial schools join Arrowhead schools and drop off during that route, or they take tier 3. So we also are looking at the difference between ridership and the ridership is who's eligible to ride the bus versus people who actually ride the bus, and that number is vastly different. So we will continue to keep people posted. The good news is that there isn't any more, there aren't any other changes. So nobody's not gonna be able to ride the bus. That grandfather clause is still in there and the dollar amount is the same. And I know that this board and people on this board specifically will be right next to me next year, starting in the fall, to get this kind of hammered out. So thank you for that. If you have questions, feel free to call me or we'll try to figure that out. Right, a couple of other things that before I start about the strategic plan, I don't know if we ever announced that our 7th and 8th grade math team took the state championship. I'm not sure that we got that credit last month, and boy, oh boy, do they deserve it. They have been trying, and that team specifically has been lockstep together, and finally, when those 8th graders got to 8th grade, they won the championship. So
awesome.
What a big deal for them, and super exciting times. Also just the kickoff of summer school today, to see them excited and just playing and a lot of outside time and a lot of energy thrown into some of these new courses. I know it's only been like a week, but
boy, it just seems like forever since we've seen the kids and their energy and what that all looks like. So really excited about that. A little bit on the strategic plan, while I don't have a whole lot for you because I just wasn't able to get things together there for about a month. But we've been working fiercely to get this in play. And I will be obviously bringing some things tonight to the school board in regard to the closed session and my evaluation, because that's what it's all based on, would be my strategic plan. Plus we have 3 brand new people to the team, so trying to get them caught up and get everybody in play. But it's a really great thing, and we're doing some really neat things, and I can't wait till next month to share everything with you. So stay tuned on where we're at with that. Outside of that, that's kind of my report.
Okay, thank you. Next, moving on, Director of Business Services.
Yes. So we will start with the monthly financial statement. So May looks good still. For Fund 10, revenues received, we did our personal property aid of just over $55,000. We had grant funds come in for $23,500. We also received some Forward Health. When they do a claim adjustment from a prior year, you're able to put that to Fund 10. So we received just over $26,000 for that. And then interest on our savings account is still doing about 4.5%. So that was $25,700. The rest is tied to school fees, extracurricular activities and such. And then for expenses, the district looked good at the time. Just want to put on your radar that June is obviously the big month. We also have our 6 pays for our teachers, which means they're paid out for their contract. So it's gonna look crazy, but all good. But just so you know, Fund 27 Special Education, we did get a Medicaid reimbursement of just over $20,000. Grant funds of almost $43,000, and then we did an interfund transfer from Fund 10 to 27 of about $158,000. Otherwise, district expenses there look good and as budgeted. Fund 46 is the capital improvement account. That is just the interest at this time, so we're letting that account grow of just about $6,300. Fund 50 is our food service. We did receive some of our federal funds for previous month's claims. So breakfast aid was about $1,400 and lunch aid was almost $15,000. And then the rest of that revenue would be food service deposits from families for their students. Fund 80 is our community service, which is the daycare, and she's actually running a little bit of a surplus, which is great, but everything is tied out there as well. Any questions on the May financials? Moving on to our, I will need a discussion and decision on the R&R insurance. R&R is our commercial insurance, so they are property equipment, auto crime, our liabilities, and then our workers' comp. So the information you have attached is what I received from R&R. I did meet with them about a week ago to discuss and review. The great news is that the premium came down about 8%, which was almost $11,000. Most of that was tied to the workers' compensation. Our mod is down, which is fantastic, and the rates dropped for the state as well. So great news there. We did have our auto insurance come down a little bit because we sold the white bus, and we were not going to replace that. And then our crime insurance came down in cost as well. I know I have a lot of information in that packet. Were there any questions on what was provided?
We went through it in some level of detail in the finance meeting and everything was kosher from our perspective, so we would recommend approving the renewal.
Okay, at this time, is there any motion on the floor for the R&R insurance renewal?
Oh, I
Motion to approve.
The R&R proposal.
I will second. Okay, any discussion on what was presented and the motion at hand? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the R&R insurance renewal, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, next.
Budget amendments, if you've been on the board in the past, you have seen this. If you're new, this is something that happens every year. So when the budget is adopted way back in October, we have most of the information that we need at that time, but there are some things that come through. I did send a memo out, just to kind of give you guys more information ahead of time. But I do highlight what those changes were to that budget form. That budget form is required by the state, so I cannot change it much. So that's why I provided more of an explanation so you knew what was coming in and out for each of those funds. Did anyone have any questions on that? Okay. Most of the changes made sense when you see the explanation, but I didn't want to go into great detail if everything looked good for you guys. So just let me know if there's questions, otherwise I would just need a decision to approve that.
Again, we went through in finance, it's largely just a paperwork thing that the state requires. I'll make a motion to approve the 24-25 budget amendment.
My second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion to approve 24-25 budget amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries.
Okay, thank you. The last thing under my report is the preliminary budget. I did share the information kind of like I shared it last year, just so you had kind of some history. As you know, we're in the middle of the state budget at this time, and I'm sure you're hearing a lot of discussions. As of Friday, I think more information came out from Joint Finance Committee that they're raising special education just a little bit from 33 to 35%. So hopefully we get another % or two, or realize another % or two. It sounds like the revenue limit per pupil staying at the 325, and there's really no other big changes. So my preliminary budget was based on numbers very close to that. I did have special education at about 30%, so it might go up slightly, maybe 31, 32%. Because we never get actually what they say we're going to get. I did give you some enrollment history just so that you could see that and where the district has been trending. For the 24-25 school year, I did keep summer school where it was, about 60 FTE, and we would receive about 40% of that for overall membership. And then looking at our trend, when you just move kids from their current grade level to the next, it shows that our overall pupil count would be about 1055. So that doesn't consider any move-ins, the new development that's going in, things of that nature. So I try to be somewhat conservative when I'm doing this budget. Obviously, when we get that third Friday count in September, Patrick will have a much better idea of what that might look like. But based on that information and looking at the tax levy, it would increase about 1.9%, and the mill rate would go from, 341 to 348 for the 25-26 school year. And then just other things to consider, the ways that we did balance the budget. We did have some staff reductions based on class sizes at one grade level, and then we had those 2 floating teachers that kind of helped cover for subs that were previously ESSER funds. Now that those ESSER funds are gone, we did eliminate those 2 positions as well. Some great benefit changes that you will see. that have not fully been realized in that budget yet is the changes with Cunningham and Butler. We did have 8 employees move to that Family Advantage Health Plan, which should save the district some dollars.
Great.
And then we do think there will be a couple more that are going to move mid-year. They're just waiting for their spouse's insurance to do open enrollment, so we think we'll have some changes mid-year as well. So that is fantastic news. Otherwise, on the last page of that is where the Fund 10 summary is. I really just show you that Fund 10 because that's the bulk of things. Fund 27 obviously has to have a 0. Fund 50 and Fund 80 are kind of on their own. So Fund 10 is really the district general fund budget, and you can see everything is in balance based on the above information. Is there any questions or? Obviously, more information will come in September at the annual meeting, and then October is when the final budget will be approved.
So you're gonna come back from that, right?
We're gonna let Patrick do it, and he's gonna do really well, I'm sure.
So just to add on to a little bit with what you said, Cindy Duco put out some information on the Joint Committee on Finance and what they approved on the 12th. And yes, they approved an additional $77.2 million for special ed for 25-26, but then they pre-approved another bigger jump for 26-27, which was $151 million. So over the course of 2 years, 228-ish million for special ed. Again, as I reported before, the legislation understands the need for improving special ed, but it's small. Everybody would love to see it up to the 60 or above, but it's at least moving, and they do understand it, and I'm at least encouraged that it's moving forward. So I think that's a really good thing, that it'll move up to the 37.5% by the following year. Now again, like you said, I don't know how much of that will be realized, but at least they're doing something. At least they're doing something.
I just wanna tag on to that, cause if you have, right, like if you have people that you talk to, I'm also going to hit on this. The special education students or students with disabilities don't differentiate between their financial established homes of their families. And so if we could look at equitable distribution of that funding, Hartland-Lakeside would get the least amount. It isn't a set percentage. It's based on socioeconomic as well as your number of students, pupils. So we have it extremely high for our area or for our district. We have a pretty high number of students with special needs. And when you start to think about what that financial impact is to our personal budget here at the district, I just think that we need to kind of take a look at that and try to encourage that conversation.
I think that's something we definitely should pursue.
Yep, absolutely. I would climb right onto that one. That's a biggie. Our kids deserve that just as much as all the rest.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, because if they can get the vouchers up to the reimbursement, what did you say the vouchers get?
Like 90.
Like 90%.
90.
And they don't have to accept anyone.
Correct.
And we get less than 30% reimbursement right now. Because I think you said, what, 29%?
We were about 29.4 for this year.
And they said, it's like a 35%. So we don't even see that 5%, so.
It's a formula.
Yeah. But it's tough when that gets taken, so, yeah.
Is that it, Amy?
Yes.
Okay. So at this point then, we'd be looking for a motion to approve the 25-26 preliminary budget as presented.
I would motion to approve the 2025-2026 preliminary budget as presented.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion?
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Why do we have to approve a preliminary?
Because they need something, correct me if I'm wrong, they need something, their school year starts July 1st, so they need something.
That makes sense, okay, yeah, forgot about that, July 1st, that makes sense. That's all I had.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of approving the 25-26 preliminary budget, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries. Okay, thank you, Amy, for your job. I'll be missed. New business.
I know that you like one. Oh,
Sorry, just on.
Well, we spent we probably spent a half hour talking about the PA bells system in our Friday meeting. Because this was brought up last time and it was sent back to committee, so we asked Tina. Chris Dilling came in and sat with us for the half hour and we went through everything. Look, the first reason we want this thing, school's asking for this, is a safety issue. It is very cumbersome if there were an emergency. It's very difficult for teachers to communicate out of the classroom or to communicate into the classroom. You dial a code, you press a button, and you gotta hit another code. And it's largely a safety issue. On top of that, the existing PA system is 25 to 30 years old. They had looked at just getting a new PA system, just replacing our PA system, not doing any of the security stuff. And they got a quote and that was gonna be like $180,000. And so they went back and said, well, we're gonna spend that much money to just replace what we've got. Other things we can have, because we still have a clock system we have to update and a bell system and all that. So this packages it all together in one for about $180,000. Is that the one we're recommending is, well, it's 90 plus labor of 67.
Yes.
So 160,000. So about the same as replacing just trying to replace the PA system. The other issue is that Chris Dillon has gotten them to hold this price. If we were to cancel this contract and come back, some of the individual units we need to purchase would cost, he said, 5 times more because of the tariff situation. These things are, we cannot get this price if we come back next year unless something drastically changes. It is going to be much more expensive and we're working off a 30-year-old system. One thing I probably had wrong, because last month was, you guys had asked, well, this is just general fund, so we can do it now, we can do it next year, it doesn't really matter. From a cash standpoint, no, but from a budget standpoint, yes. We have extra money to pay for this in this year's budget. So if we approve it and the equipment is delivered, it'll come out of this year's budget, at least the equipment. The labor will be next year's budget. If we just push it to next year, in addition to it potentially being more expensive, we would either have to budget for it at the beginning of the year. So then that might have to take from somewhere else. Or we budget for a negative general fund balance for the year, or you put it to the capital and you pull it out of the capital and that's additional. Am I saying all that stuff right?
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
that was the gist I got,
Yes.
but maybe clarify that just a little bit.
Of course, so if we have a surplus at the end of this year, you have 2 options. You can transfer it to Fund 46, which you've done for the last couple of years. But to spend those dollars for Fund 46, it has to be part of that 10-year plan. Finance knows, I don't know if I've said this out loud. We're looking at facility assessment to be done on all 3 buildings so we can update that 10-year plan. So we're looking at updating the 10-year plan anyway, but currently the PA bells and clocks are not in that plan, so we can't use Fund 46 on that project. If we wanted to use some of the fund balance, we can do that as well, because fund balance policy right now, we can't go below 15%, but we're over 30%. So you could decide to spend down fund balance. That just means Patrick has to have a negative, or I guess a deficit in the budget when he does that in October, which is great. You guys can just say, yep, go ahead, pull whatever from fund balance and complete that project. It's just going to take a couple months to do that at this time because we have the funds available. we're just asking that we order it now so that we can get the units at least here by June 30th, which I've been told multiple times will still happen. Because for audit purposes, I need them received in our possession by June 30th. So we can do that, which Matt's indicated was about 90,000, and then we would have them installed over the summer, which would fit into next year's budget.
And Greg thinks, I mean, there's just a labor estimate, so it's in
Yes.
addition to it. And Greg thinks he has additional summer help. There may be some opportunity to have some of our summer help, which might cut down on the labor. So finance's recommendation is that we approve this. It's a safety issue, it's replacing old equipment, and it's not gonna get any, it's a problem, it's something that's gonna have to get addressed, and if it doesn't get addressed now, it'll be addressed later at a much higher cost. So our recommendation is to move forward with it.
And I would like to add some superintendent thoughts, if you don't mind. We had a drill, just something that happened just 2 weeks ago, I think. We had that big storm that had hail and winds. It was a severe thunderstorm and the bells were going, and we put the middle school on hold, or we put all the schools on hold. We had a large class in the gym over here at North Shore Middle School, and he released the kids out into the storm to ride their bikes and walk home, because he simply couldn't hear the PA over in the gym. So, imagine, that was a thunderstorm, right? Imagine it were something else, and that's the PA system that we have in place right now. Who knows what could have happened. Some of the question could be about the finances. Why do we have extra money, and why didn't we know we were gonna have this extra money, and how are we prioritizing our spending, and some of those kinds of conversations. Every year we sit down and go through probably, I don't know if there's like 10 or 15 different little pockets of budget, right, that we have to kind of sort through, and it's everything from curriculum to the buildings to you name it, right, all these different moving parts. There are times when things come in under budget, right? And so then we're like, oh, well, we've got an extra 10,000 a year. And then we had that 4.5% interest. And so you just accumulate funds. We also are looking at, as you saw in the preliminary budget, some deficit spend in staffing. So it's like $250,000 or something within that, just simply because we had some retirements and other positions leave. And we filled them with people that make less money than they did, right? So that's like typical business, how you do things. I think from my own perspective, I know that Amy Harker Murray brought this up back in November of 2023, my first year here, because somebody had said to her, like, we are having a hard time with dialing this out and remembering the code, and by the time we get done with this, who knows what could happen at the end of the day. We talked about walkie-talkies. We use walkie-talkies primarily for our student services teams. So yes, we have walkie-talkies. It also will tie directly within our Crisis Go system, which is our safety program. I think additionally, as your person, why it was not in the 10-year plan, I can't answer that question. Previous administration didn't have that in there, and the teams didn't figure that out. We identified it right away as an issue for us. And I guess I would just say that we are the eyes and ears of the inside to you. So providing with you the real problem that we have without it being super concerning. I would ask that we reconsider our vote from last month in the respect for safety of our children and our district in general. It is part of our strategic plan, and safety is my #1 priority.
So just a point of clarification, the vote last month was just to delay it to this month. It wasn't to no.
Okay, great,
It
thank
wasn't
you.
to no.
Thank
It
you.
wasn't to no.
I think I was watching it going,
Because there was also question was clarification, does anybody else use this around here that has used this? Is there any other things that go on with that? And that was one of those. And then obviously we have the budgeting. We keep talking about this 10-year plan and this coming down, and we're spending money beforehand, and that's kind of like one of the other things that pop up as a concern as we go down this path. I did have one question regarding the software that's in there. I know it says 1 year. Is it $3,000 every year for that, or is that just a 1 year? You'll see. It says the software for not 1 year only.
Chris?
Give him a second to unmute himself.
Yeah.
Do you remember where that's at in there, Chris?
It's on the, like,
Three.
page 3.
Well, they're looking that up. I mean, we did learn that they gave us 2 school systems as references who are using this. One was, I don't remember, I thought it was.
Somewhere in Milwaukee.
There's one in Milwaukee and then
One in
Some in
Illinois.
Illinois.
Illinois was a large district.
Fairly new though, or they've had it for a while.
The Illinois district has been a while. Golda Meir School in Milwaukee has a total of 116 wireless messaging boards. It's used in a similar manner as what Hartland-Lakeside School District is proposing. They installed them in March of 2023. We have all the information for them. I can give it to anybody that would like it. Township High School in Arlington Heights had over 1,000 message boards. And they were installed with LED clocks. And we also have a contact for that. This person was instrumental for many years when the message boards were initially purchased and implemented. So those also have been, Rudy is no longer there. So he was the one that made the decision and they still use them today. So we do have those 2 references.
And then is there a warranty on these?
Chris, do you want me to answer for you?
Yeah, go, Karen. Is he gonna do that?
Well, no, he's just replying to me. Couple hundred at most for our phone system tie-in and a 10-year FCC license, minimal yearly costs, he says. So it's not a $3,000 every year fee.
Because the only, I look at, it just says 1 year on there for the Korean software, 1 year.
He doesn't have a mic, he needs to call in. Do you want me to call him?
Sure.
You want me to call him?
Yeah, go ahead. Or here, I'll just do it on my, let's just do it here.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I would also like to say
Because he would have
that-
been on the call, we're just having difficulty, just to clarify, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to say that the analog clock thing got figured out. It is in our curriculum and they do have access to them so that they can have them. So I'm okay with it now. Just to follow back up on, I know there was a couple other parents that had reached out.
I know first grade learns how to.
Hi there. You're on my cell phone, just so you know. The question out there has to do with the contract being a 1-year software.
Looking at the quotes now just to make certain that
I can't tell which quote is right though.
They'll have it on top, so you
It is on
can
top?
one of them,
Okay.
they're all on each, it's on top of each of them.
This isn't a spreadsheet, I can't do it.
So I'm not aware of any $3,000 charge on the quote that we are recommending. There's a few line items at the very bottom for phone licensing. That's a few $100s a year that we may not even need. We may have additional licensing already covering that. And then there is a 10-year FCC license for $588 over that 10-year period. There is no additional software licensing over the course of the ChronoSync software that's included in those quotes.
I think I know
Okay.
yours, yeah.
So you're thinking the Munger is the quote you're talking about then? Okay. And then, was there a warranty or anything related with those?
There is a 1-year warranty with all the devices, and I believe Munger Technologies offers an additional warranty with those. Beyond that, obviously, we would be replacing them at cost if we had any issues or repairs.
Thank you. Any other questions for Chris while we have him?
And there's still no fail-safe for this system. If you lose power, the system doesn't work.
So if we were to lose power, the system would shut down. That's not to say that battery backups couldn't be added at any time. They would need to be added initially. These would be basically off-the-shelf units. We estimated after that was discussed, probably would add another roughly $15,000 to the project minimum in order to add battery backups to each of those devices. And even if we have a longer term outage, we may only have 15 to 20 minutes of batteries. So, if you really wanted a fail safe, I really think we need to be starting to talk about a generator with some other line of fuel for long-term outages. But I do believe that we can, most of the power outages that we would have would be weather related, and we have advance notice. So those emergency messages would be going out immediately. We would be in our safe areas at those times. And even if we lost power, those signs going off would no longer be necessary. And hopefully it would be for a short period, but we don't typically have that issue. But to your point, it could be added at any time.
Well, and these aren't Wi-Fi, correct, Chris?
Correct. So these are not Wi-Fi. That's why we require the 10-year FCC license, because it's
I thought
using
that was- I
a
liked
different
that,
level of
but it
bandwidth.
wasn't.
So this does not require internet. If we had an internet outage, as long as our network was still functional, we would still have communication across all three buildings to send out messages.
And what's the current today, Chris, if we were to lose power with our current system? It's all down, right?
It would be out immediately.
Okay.
We have backups for our higher end network here, our servers, our Wi-Fi. We do have enough to keep us going for brief outages, probably anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. And then our server rooms are covered for as much as 1 to 2 hours. Gives us enough time to shut things down properly. But beyond that, we are fully reliant on batteries for our power outages.
Okay, thank you. No, I just wanted to ask, because if, I didn't want us to be judging on something that this system isn't doing that we don't currently have today, just for fair comparison's sake.
Yeah, no, we do not have any battery backup currently for any of our PA or bells right now.
Okay.
I would have asked the same question if you didn't. So.
Anything else for Mr. Dillon? Okay.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else to add? I have a direct question. So if you were to look at this in terms of it being a safety issue with the identified maintenance plan that we have on the district as is and the known security, safety improvements we want to do, again, this would be your number one.
Absolutely, without question.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
I found it interesting when they were explaining that currently right now to dial out in an emergency, you have a couple codes and you have to wait and codes and wait, and if you don't do that properly, you have to start over.
Now, is that from the classroom to central, from the classroom to the office?
It's everywhere. Everybody has a specific code, and flight or fight, right? Like, you're either gonna be on that and know exactly what you're supposed to do, or you're gonna be in complete panic mode. So typically, it's your central offices out to the building, or out to the classrooms, or out, into the areas. But any one of us calling somebody in an emergency situation, it is set to that code. And it's like 4 or 5 numbers, you pause, and then you hit the other number. So, and yeah, there's time that goes by with that.
So in a scenario of a 7th grade classroom that has an emergency in room, how does that teacher communicate to either the building principal or to central today?
I honestly think they send a student to
I was
the
gonna say
office.
it.
Yeah, start screaming.
It is, they send a child running to the office to get somebody to help or next door,
And this system would allow for immediate.
immediate.
Yeah, once I heard that code there, I was like, oh, no.
So one-way system isn't from the offices to the rooms? That's not what that means? Only?
One-way system means, so, like if we were in here right now, the office could come in and say, Amy, come to the office. I can't just say back to them, okay, I'll be there in a minute. I'd have to pick up the phone and say, all right, I'll be there in a minute. So that's what two-way means, is that I can just talk in the room and they can hear me. That's the only difference with that, but my understanding, when we asked the team, we're not using the two-way system. Most of the time it is, they pick up the phone and call, or you can do it through the phone, you don't have to do it through the system.
So even with the new system, the teacher still doesn't have a way to communicate to the office?
Oh no, they would just pick up their phone, hit a button and go to the main office. Supports one button, quick dialing for all call. Yeah,
And that's not available today.
or no.
Not currently.
Okay.
So that would save the student from running down to the office.
Okay, does the administration have any more input?
Yeah, not that I can think of.
All right, so at this point, there is discussion and decision on the Bell Systems PA clock system in front of us. Is there any motion on the floor to do something with it?
So with discussion, we're talking about option 5, I believe. Is that what the committee is now recommending initially?
Yes.
No.
Correct.
Can I do it?
Yes.
I would motion to approve the Munger Technology Services Innovation Wireless with Algo Paging One-Way System number 5 in the proposal.
I will second that.
Okay, now we have an active motion on the floor to approve a particular quote. Is there any discussion on that motion?
I think the motion to secure the parts of smarts by June 30th is a wise decision. I just would like to see improved infrastructure if we're gonna replace the system. Why replace it in kind? So I would like to see battery backup or some type of backup. But I think it's smart to purchase before June 30th.
And I think the battery backup is something that could be added.
Right.
I think Chris's point is if you start worrying about that, there's probably better options for backing up that can support not just backing up that, but a larger host of things. So that's probably something that we may wanna.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
curious if
folks
that'll
look
come
into
up in the facility review for
sure.
an actual generator, because I don't think, just like what he said with the batteries, like, okay, here's another 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's a Band-Aid
It's
fix.
not really gonna. But then I am also thinking, how many times are outside of a intruder, I guess, cutting the power?
That's what I'm not worried about the storm. I'm worried
Right.
about an intruder.
Yeah.
Our new system does nothing.
Correct, I mean, I guess that's like the only thing.
Now, the good news I did hear at an Arrowhead meeting, they're looking at different exterior security measures of cameras and surveillance. And one of the lieutenants who came and presented to the board did bring up that if the exterior of a building is secure, that I think he either said 99% or 100% of the time the intruders have not made it in.
Because the doors can't be
Because
opened.
the structure, the buildings are safe. And so that's something to consider here too, that, you know, if we lost the power, the communication ability, again, if the school system is locked down and safe, that makes it's still incredibly difficult for someone. If they breach, that's a different story. Then that system would become much more pivotal for communication.
Because it can be silent as well.
So, okay. Any further discussion?
It's just that, for me, the only thing is, I know we have a facility plan coming, so that's why this makes it a little bit tough on the timing of where those things are. So we're hoping that this would be the number one issue on that list by those facility planners as well. We're trying to make that decision here. I get the need, and I think we need something, just the timing and, well, these two things just don't fall in line right now, which makes it a little difficult. It's a big dollar for that.
And I would agree with you, I would. And I think that having just come off the strategic plan, I think a lot of that's going to start to iron itself out, which is what you alluded to earlier with the strategic plan. So I think that'll help. We'll start to update a lot of the information that hasn't been updated in years. And then we can put together this district plan for it. And that's specifically why I asked the question, is this your number one, knowing that list and everything else that's on there, is that your number one safety priority that you would recommend to this board? I just want you to say it because they can't.
Sorry. I was like, yes.
So yes.
Yes.
Amy, you had said something during finance saying that if we had known a price of this last year, you could have budgeted for this and this wouldn't even have been a discussion. So I also thought that was an interesting thing, that it wasn't just brought up out of the blue. He's been working on this for over a year to get the quotes and to get the systems. And we thought we were gonna do one system and then realized we didn't need all the capability, like the two-way thing, and so that brought the price down on what we needed. And so I thought that was a good thing that they were assessing what we use and what we don't use, what we actually want, stuff like that. So this, like Tina had said, Amy Harker-Murray had actually brought this up quite a while ago. So it is not just something snapped into place.
So I think my opinion then on this from last month went from hesitation to acceptance. So I would encourage my fellow board members to support it because of several different factors. One is the administration's absolute commitment to this being a number one thing. I think that says a lot. Second, that it has been worked on for the past and that it could have been budgeted for had we worked out all the numbers. I think that's good to know. And then the example in the gymnasium. That's not good. That's not good. And I know that that's something that we have to look at. So I think given all that, it makes sense as a priority, but I would also still encourage us to take a very hard look at the strategic plan, the maintenance plan, and the absolute prioritized needs of the district and have them in the front and center. So that moving forward, we have time to plan and prepare. And I will compliment the district as well. You did a very good job of going out, doing the RFP, providing the information. Last month, we just didn't have all the information to make the decision.
No,
That's all it
absolutely.
was.
And I will say, I hear, and you bring up a great point, Chris, you really do, right? Like, oh my gosh, this is a big ticket item and how did it get to this, right? Like, I get that. Normally you would be planning. I think from a safety perspective, and I've said it since day one, safety is my number one priority. And it's become our big priority within our strategic plan. We are talking about hardscaping over at South particularly, South, North and South. We're talking about what does the film look like on our windows? We're talking about strategic plans and making sure that our drills are being done on a regular basis so that kids are prepared and they're brave and they know exactly where to go and what to do. Not this pandemonium, oh, I'm so scared, right? We've got to teach our kids, we've got to make sure that we've got things in play. So all of those things, I tell you today that we are absolutely working on all of those pieces, and I would implore you to pass this.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? All right. So I believe the motion on the floor is to approve the, which quote was it? The number 5, correct?
Yeah.
Option number 5?
Yep.
On the systems presented.
Correct.
All right, it's already on the table. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Yeah.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, next, discussion and decision on the 25-26 school board meeting calendar.
Why are we doing this again?
You're right, I'm sorry. You're in the right order. Okay, I jumped in.
Did something change?
So yeah, to my knowledge, you guys wanted to relook at this? That's why it's back on the agenda, that there was a couple dates that wanted to be revisited.
There was some,
February, I think February?
somebody brought one up, I remember that conversation, but I can't remember who.
We approved the one I brought up,
We did, we
January
changed
21st.
that to Wednesday.
and then, cause you had an issue, but then,
From Tuesday to Wednesday, but I thought there was a February question.
I have a March conflict,
February
actually
being
have two
President's Day,
conflicts.
but that's,
so we can look at them.
Yeah.
We can look at them. So I have a March conflict that would leave me unavailable that week. Again, one board member does not necessarily mean move the meeting. So I'm just presenting it as that is a conflict. And then Matt, you said you had?
August 18th and Matt McNulty or?
McNulty.
August 18th and October 20th, I have conflicts.
And what was the other one? You said August 18th and?
October 20th. If need be, August, I could make remote, but I can't make October 20th, remote or in person.
what are your proposed changes?
I actually, there's something October 20th, I was pissed I was gonna have to miss.
Oh, well.
That might work.
October 20th.
And so you said the 20th of October was.
We have to move that.
Correct.
Yeah, October 20th, I have to move.
And that, because that one could not be remote, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but the other one could be the 18th.
The other one, if everyone else can make the 18th and wouldn't like to move a week prior or later, I can make that one remote. So I would propose either
When's
August
your-
11th or August 25th.
I know Tina won't want earlier in August.
Yeah, I won't, thank you.
Late week in August is not good.
Is that the annual meeting date too?
No, that's September 22nd. At like 6:01, didn't Carrot put that? 6:31?
Oh,
I mean, I could move a week later in August if people
Just a reminder, you don't all have to be there.
want. Right.
So August, you
I'm
said you
just,
can call.
I'm just
No, you're correct.
telling you the rules,
You
you
are
don't freak out if
Quorum
you can't all
only
be
needed, is
there.
only needed of 3.
Yeah, can we leave the August and you call in? You said you could call in August, October you cannot.
Let's do that.
Is does that fit with your,
August,
Leave
But-
August 18th as
oh,
is.
yeah, that's fine,
And
I
then
can do
just
August 18th, yeah.
Member
Thank you.
McNulty calling in.
Can I ask one last professional opinion on August 20th, coming off of that annual meeting? Amy, would that be difficult for
October
a turn? Sorry, October 20th, coming out of that annual meeting, would that be a difficult turnaround if it goes earlier?
If it goes earlier, you won't be able to approve the budget. The budget information from the state comes out on the 15th.
so it'd probably be better if we pushed it back in October.
Later would probably help Patrick.
It's just 27th for people. That's the next Monday.
Pretty.
Oh, wait, I actually,
Oh, boy.
looks like I gotta sort my house first. I can do October 20th now. Date changed.
Well, if we need to switch it next month, we can.
Yeah.
And then the March 16th of 26th.
Oh, yeah.
So we're keeping October 20th?
Yes, it looks like so far we'll keep them.
Okay.
And August 18th.
And then
I just needed to speak out loud about it.
No,
March, the end of March is,
Hold on, Tina's got something.
Sorry, that October date, I think because we have a brand new person, if we can move it to the 27th, I think that would be helpful to him. Just out of respect for the work that he's gonna have to do, to ask him to turn around with the final budget in 2 days and have it ready for you guys on the 20th. Chris
Because he
is
would have to get it to us in a pre-read kind of thing.
on the 16th or 17th, that's
Oh,
one day.
yeah.
He'd get it the 15th, so he'd have Thursday
How does everyone feel about moving it back 1 week in October to the week of the 27th?
Can we wear costumes? Just kidding. I'm good with that.
Yes,
I can't do the 27th or 28th, but I can do 29th, 30th, or 31st.
not 31st. 31st is Friday.
Wednesday,
Scared of
29th.
Friday evening?
Wednesday the 29th?
Yeah. Kind of.
Administration, Wednesday the 29th?
Wednesday, the 29th is fine, we can put
Everyone?
it on, it's,
Yeah,
Sound good?
totally fine.
great.
You know,
So what I recommend is if we're making changes, we should note them and then have a motion to accept them. Okay, so we're looking and talking about when moving the October 20th to October 29th, Wednesday. Okay? And then the other potential conflict was in 26 March. So the 26th of March, I may, very slight may, be able to call in, but that's all I could do.
Thursday, the 26th?
The 16th of March, you said?
Yes, that whole week, unfortunately. I could potentially call in, I won't know until it gets earlier or closer to that date, whether or not my schedule would allow me to call in at night.
Spring break's the next week, correct?
Spring break's the
Spring
week of the
break's the
23rd,
Yeah, so if we do it the 23rd, it's that next week is spring break.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
week of the 23rd is spring break?
No, it's the week after, so.
Oh, okay.
30th through the 3rd.
If I did my stickers right.
So there's 5 Mondays in March. Does anyone see a conflict with moving it back 1 week to
The 23rd.
Monday the 23rd?
No, totally fine, maybe.
Anyone?
It's fine, maybe.
Okay. The proposed there would be Monday, March 23rd.
Should probably write this.
I should be, I changed.
Okay. If there's nothing else on the schedule, then I would like to motion to adjust the school board meeting dates to move the October 20th, 2025 meeting to October 29th, Wednesday, the following week, and move Monday, March 16th, 2026 to Wednesday. I'm sorry, to Monday, March 23rd, the following week. If I need to repeat that since I stuttered, I can.
I'll second it.
Did you just make that motion?
I did.
I'll second that motion.
Matt McNulty already
No,
did.
it actually be changed.
Oh, there you go. Guy figured out his calendar, and I voted.
All right, any discussion on those meeting moves? Okay, if not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries, the calendar has been adjusted to move Monday, August 18th,
No,
October 20th to October 29th, Wednesday, and Monday, March 16th, 2026 to Monday, March 23rd. Thank you all. Next, discussion and decision on the reviewed and updated Neola policies.
So I will just add to this, I watched this back and there was just a lot of confusion about the who, the what, the when, the how, the why, and all of it. Everything's been approved already, and I think Chris did a great job of explaining earlier that it's already been approved, and so it just shows up again, and then you think it's another question mark. So really truly on these where it's green is where you're seeing the difference on any of the changes. The other thing that I will share with you is, you know that, what is that, Control F5, where you can put in at the top, like, change all district administrator to superintendent. It does it to the entire document. That's what Neola's gonna do when it comes to parent guardian, when it comes to superintendent, right? All of those things, all of those kind of big functions, they can just do all at once, and they will. As far as substantive changes, there aren't any, right? They match what we do, they follow along with what we actually have going on. Some really great questions came out of PPC, well, but I really like some of these things. Yep, I do too. We're just not doing them right now, so I can't put that into a policy until we get to a place where we're actually implementing things like a true wellness plan. And so Chris's advice on a lot of that was keeping that broader, and then we'll fill in and get a little bit more direct once we have the plan in place. So as we went through some of these policies that were brought back, I think we answered the questions pretty basically on all the ones because they were kind of just these correction things. And then the 7,000s and the 8,000s, there was a question on 7450 from PPC that was property inventory, and that's just accounting law. That's why the change was made, is because it's accounting law. And then the question of what does periodic review mean, right? What does periodic mean? Well, I'll tell you that we annually, by law, have to come to the board and share our curriculum with you. We do it every year in July, August. And then outside of that, if I, for example, last year, HLEF went ahead and approved the apps STEM grant. And so we had to come and get that apps thing approved by the board. That's what I mean by periodically. If we have something come to, like, for example, right now I'm working with our food service organization to create a Talk About It Tuesday. And what that'll be is a little bit about health and nutrition on Tuesdays through our company. We don't have that all in play yet, but I might come in September and say, hey board, this is what we're looking at doing. Are you on board with that? And that's what I mean by periodically. So, Chris, I'm sorry if I didn't say or did.
No, it's all right.
But if that helps you out, yeah.
There are state laws that require this is adding on top of that, so.
Yeah.
I would recommend those same changes come through.
I had one just question as I looked through, the green was just new, it wasn't something we drafted.
Oh, yeah, we don't write any of this.
Well, the color, I thought the colors at one point meant we drafted something.
Yeah.
That was my only question, so, okay, I'm good, yeah, anything else?
It is.
I didn't think we.
Green is new, we're in their update.
And then at any point in time, we wanna go back and look at one of these, we can, right? This is just using what Neola sent out as their latest update. But it will allow us to get our handbooks out, which is, I think, the much importance.
The other thing I do want to bring up, because I do have a note here, that Neil's asked a question regarding the cell phone policy. It is what you had said. We did approve it the way that you had stated it. We added smart watches, but in transit, like on a school bus.
I saw we added the bell to bell.
Yes, and we changed it to bell to bell.
I like
So that we have an understanding of where that's at, just food for thought, 'cause I just saw that on my notes.
Yeah, and we'll continue to add new technology as it arises, or as needed. Because smartwatches is now new.
Well, so is the meta glasses. Do kids have those? Because that's ridiculous if they do.
The only question I had was
No.
I did have one question, the last one that was in the beginning, policy 8700. I don't see that at the bottom.
It's,
Did I miss it, or was it out of?
yeah, it's like a lot of, they changed it to, so it's the
Mine
last
ends-
page and a half.
Mine ends at 8680, transportation services contracts.
Oh, whenever I printed this, I guess
Yeah, no, it's
In the board.
Oh, no,
packet.
yeah, on the board packet, it
On the
doesn't.
board packet, I don't have it, unfortunately.
oh,
That's weird, because I printed it, so I don't know where I got this printed from.
I know, I thought this
I
was.
don't know.
Oh, PPC, I wonder if I printed it from the PPC and the one in the board doesn't have it.
Yeah, the board doesn't, it ends at 8680, and I couldn't find 8700, so I thought maybe I was missing something. Is there anything in the 8700?
Not that pertains to human,
It changes the name of it.
The green is the change.
not to human.
Well,
That's the amendment.
it does change the name.
Right,
What is it?
and was that a Neola?
It gives options, so
Right?
that was what was selected by the,
I appreciate it, I mean, I get it, because that could be, yeah, people that lost and are donating, so I appreciate that.
That's an interesting change, okay.
Are you talking about the title?
Yes,
Well, it could also be because if someone were to lose a child and decides to donate their breast milk, they are not.
The mother of that child.
Yes, I mean, they are always the mother of that child,
right.
but that would be a more emotionally considerate title. Having experienced that, I would appreciate that title, so
Not a hill to die on. But just
it is for me.
interested to see lactating individual versus nursing mom. Okay.
All right.
At this moment, we have an option to approve. If anyone would like to make a motion on those policies.
Motion to approve the presented updates to the Neola policies.
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you, that's great.
Okay, discussion on board seat recount costs.
There's a question during the opening public comment. We actually raised that same question in finance. And it's a little, I think on the voucher report, there are a couple invoices from Von Briesen that are labeled recount, but there were some other items they were addressing not associated with the recount. So that's just whoever keyed a description into our accounting system, but the same thing for a couple different things. But so as I understand it, the 15 hours or whatever's presented there, thanks. The 15 hours at $300 for Von Briesen is the amount of time that they spend on the recount. There are additional fees that are in the neighborhood of $3,000 we incurred with that firm on other items last month.
Any other discussion on it? Okay. Moving on, president report. So we received a total of, I believe it was 9. Let me click to make sure. 7 different letters from the 5th grade classrooms on communicating with the board and making different requests as part of an active writing portion of their classroom. And these letters came over the last 2 months. And for the board members who weren't here last year, we had received similar letters petitioning the board with things as part of their writing and curriculum. And the board opted to reply thanking the students for communicating with us. And we know now that they're already out for the summer, but I thought it would be nice for the board to be able to see what was communicated and see if anyone would be interested in potentially drafting a response, thanking the students for reaching out and encouraging them to continue to communicate with the board.
So I actually emailed back the 5 that emailed me, thanking them and saying that I forwarded them to the board as well. So, because I didn't see anything last month on the agenda.
Right.
So I didn't want to leave them hanging since they had emailed me. I didn't want to appear that I was not responding to the public. I have not heard back.
Okay.
I thought that was really cool that they do that. And were some of these actually physical letters?
Yes.
Because, yeah, I thought that was really cool that they got, that they did that. And
some were physical letters that were actually mailed directly to the board.
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool.
So if, again, it's not necessarily something that needs a required action, just to see if there's an interest level here of responding to the students.
Do you think you could tell the public what the different subjects were? Just like the type, like, oh, this one was about X, this one was, you don't have to read the letters, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'd probably not do that. And there's also the student confidentiality.
I'm not saying names.
Sure. If you give me a moment, then I can look it up and do it. So there was one on teacher compensation, another on therapy dogs, another on teacher compensation.
Wonder if they were put up to this.
No, because and some of them, when you read them, you can tell that they were not.
I'm not sure. Another on behavior and bullying. Another on cell phone usage. in the classrooms. Another on the cost of extracurricular activities.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
And another on devices in the classroom. So I would think it would be a nice gesture if we were to do something similar to last year and just draft a thank you for them reaching out and engaging civically with their board. I think it would be great.
Yeah, I'll take that task. That'd be great.
Oh, thank you. So, the other Matt, would you be able to explain what you did last year for Mr. McNulty so he understands kind of what you did?
Yeah, I mean, we only had like 2 or 3 last year versus 7. But I think Tom and I basically said that, you know, I think 2 of them were therapy dogs. Basically said, great idea, maybe you could come up with some ways to incorporate pets as part of a lesson plan, but you know, we can't just have a classroom dog. Stuff like that. So I tried to suggest that we did discuss it. Or if it's just something that's out there, it's like, yeah, these are topics we're discussing, so it's pretty basic.
So maybe what you could do is thank them for their engagement, that the board was able to review all of their different suggestions, and we would encourage them to come back at a later time and continue engaging with the board on subjects that matter. So then you wouldn't have to necessarily respond to every single one individually. You could do more of a general.
I can tell you the ones that I responded to if you don't wanna.
I mean, it's like 7 or 9 of them, am I right?
Well,
Have you written a big note before, Matt? I don't know.
Thank you very much.
Make sure you don't write in cursive, they might not be able to read it.
Appreciate that.
Our kids can.
Okay, and then the only other item was the future board or chair committee discussion items. Does anyone have any other items?
We just have our student handbooks and employee handbooks coming. Thank you for tonight.
Awesome. Thank you for working on a lot of work. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. PPC, we have next scheduled meeting for July 10th. Is that still correct? Everybody good?
Yep.
All right. Finance, Tuesday, July 15th, 8:30 a.m. Everybody good? Okay. And then the next school board meeting, Monday, July 21st at 6:30 p.m. And no need for anything prior?
No,
Not at this time.
not at this time.
Okay. Then at this point, we are preparing to enter our executive session. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn into executive session for Wisconsin statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. The purpose of the closed session will be to discuss superintendent goals and measurables. Is there a motion?
Didn't you say we can just?
I
say
hear
something
motion, or
and
motion that.
Can't we make some sort of
What's that?
blanket statement
Yeah,
that we
so-
agree with what you said?
So what it was is I'm reading, to try to save time for the future. If I read that off, all you have to do is say, so moved. And
So
then it
moved.
becomes.
So moved.
Yes, so moved.
And we will not be coming back into open session after.
Hold on,
Oh, sorry.
please, just a moment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor of moving into closed session as described, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimously approved, we are in closed session.
Guys.
Good luck.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Yeah.